Hi, it's Minnie. You're watching DontaesBoxingNation.
Dontae's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So it's 6 p.m. where I'm at right now. So that means, if my math is right, it's 4 a.m. in the States. On the West Coast, it's 4 a.m., 7 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm telling you guys that because I want you to understand when I say last night, I'm talking about my time. So last night, I read the entire filing of Canelo's claim in the lawsuit. Everything that he said in his lawsuit, I read the whole filing last night, his whole claim. And let me tell you, it was some very telling stuff in there. But after reading all of that, not only did it confirm a lot of the things I've been telling you guys about Canelo Alvarez, but it also gave me the impression it's going to be very, very difficult for Canelo Alvarez to win a lawsuit against Dazn. Now, he may have a chance against Golden Boy, but it's going to be awfully difficult for him to win against Dazn, and I'll explain why in a minute. But before I do, let's get into some lighter stuff that was actually revealed in this claim. So you guys know how whenever Canelo Alvarez is avoiding someone, his Canelo fans, they come out and they start saying, hey man, it's not his fault, it's Oscar De La Hoya, he's forcing him to fight this guy or not fight this guy, etc., right? And what have I always told you? I have always told you since day one, no, Canelo Alvarez, he's the one that dictates everything that takes place. He was the one that decided to fight Lara. After Lara jumped on the stage and pressured him to take the fight, Canelo finally gave in and he took the fight. Oscar De La Hoya admitted he did not want him to take that fight because he felt it was too dangerous of a fight. Even when Canelo Alvarez was avoiding Gennady Golovkin, I remember I was there at the press conference where everyone was asking Oscar De La Hoya, when are we going to see that fight? And Oscar, he came out and he said, hey, you know, it's up to Canelo. It's up to Canelo Alvarez. Whenever he wants to take it, we have to ask Canelo. Once again, he was admitting that it's Canelo that decides who he fights. And Canelo Alvarez, he confirmed and admitted all of this in this claim. Canelo's team, they said other than Mr. Fielding, the Alvarez contract did not require Alvarez to box any specific opponent. Instead, it specified that Alvarez's opponents be mutually selected by Alvarez and Golden Boy, subject to Alvarez's final approval, not to be unreasonably withheld. Notably, the Alvarez contract did not mention that Dazn would have any right to accept or reject any opponents selected by Alvarez. So in the first part of that piece, once again, you hear Canelo's team admit that it was Canelo Alvarez that had the final say-so of who he gets to fight. Also, Canelo was under the impression that he could fight whoever he wanted to when it came to Golden Boy and Dazn. And then when he found out that Dazn wasn't approving his opponents, that's when he realized he couldn't fight whoever he wanted to. So that's part of his lawsuit. The fact that, once again, Canelo, he wanted to fight whoever he wanted to. Now, you would probably think, why wouldn't Canelo Alvarez know that he can't just fight whoever he wants when he's been paid $35 million a fight? Why wouldn't he know what's on the contract? Well, Canelo Alvarez, he revealed in this claim that he's never seen the Dazn contract. This big $365 million contract, Canelo, according to him, he's never even seen it. He said that he asked Golden Boy for it twice. They never gave it to him. It turns out Canelo Alvarez, he doesn't even have a contract with Dazn. He only has a contract with Golden Boy. So he's suing Dazn, but he's suing him as a third-party beneficiary. So the question is, if he hasn't seen the contract, how does he know exactly how much money is owed to him for each fight? And how can he sue Dazn for not approving certain opponents when he doesn't have a contract with DAZN? It would seem that his problem would be more with Golden Boy as opposed to DAZN in this situation. That's why I really wish I could see the actual contract with Golden Boy. Now, the other part of Canelo's lawsuit is the fact that Golden Boy was making deals behind his back, guaranteeing that Canelo would fight Gennady Golovkin a third time, and Canelo said he wasn't aware of this, that he would be obligated to fight Golovkin a third time. So in Canelo's claim, it reads, in the spring of 2019, Alvarez expressed interest in a bout with WBO light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev. Around this time, Alvarez became aware that DAZN was growing frustrated at the choice of desired opponents. Alvarez came to understand that DAZN believed that De La Hoya and or other representatives of Golden Boy Promotions had promised, either contractually or otherwise, that Alvarez would select Gennady Golovkin as one of his 2019 opponents. Prior to these discussions with defendants, Alvarez was unaware that DAZN believed Golden Boy Promotions had promised that he would fight Golovkin, unaware that DAZN's contract gave DAZN the right to reject the opponents he selected, and he was unaware that the DAZN contract contained clauses potentially inconsistent with those of the Alvarez contract. I don't know why that would surprise you, Canelo. You were under the impression you were going to be getting paid $365 million, and once again, you thought that they were just going to let you fight all the Rocky Fieldings and Yendirams that you wanted to, and every once in a while you fight like a Danny Jacobs, but you still stay away from the undefeated champions in your own division, and you thought the DAZN was going to be okay with this? You know, the funny thing is, DAZN probably would have been okay with it if the numbers would have reflected success, but they didn't. And that's the reason why DAZN started to turn up the heat. And as Canelo put it, DAZN started to grow frustrated with Canelo Alvarez's selection of opponents. Now, speaking of selection of opponents, we've heard these reports that DAZN, they wanted Canelo Alvarez to fight what they call premium opponents, at least one premium opponent a year, at least one. And we know Canelo, he fights twice a year, right? Now, according to reports, DAZN believed that premium type of opponents was like a couple of MMA fighters like Khabib and the other guy's name, and Oscar De La Hoya and Gennady Golovkin. Now, first of all, let me say this. If those are the only fighters that DAZN has on their list as premium opponents, this is the reason why DAZN is in the trouble they're in right now. If you don't know the complete ins and out of the sport of boxing, there's no way you should be paying out $365 million to any boxer. You should know everything about boxing. You should know who the biggest names are. You should know which opponents would bring in more subscribers to DAZN. And clearly, DAZN, they have no clue. I mean, with a list like that, it seems like the company is ran by complete casual fans. These are the type of people that probably only knew names like Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, and Canelo Alvarez. Probably didn't know anyone else. And what really surprises me is Eddie Hearn, he's like a partner with DAZN. So if anything, how come Eddie Hearn didn't help out DAZN when it comes to a list of premium type of opponents for Canelo Alvarez? Let me tell you what a premium opponent is. First of all, I just want to make it clear. Now, there's no doubt about it, a Canelo fight versus Oscar De La Hoya, even a Canelo fight versus an MMA fighter, it would do big numbers. But at the same time, you should have other people on that list that would bring in big numbers. Because there's no doubt about it, Charlo, when it comes to Jamal Charlo, the Charlo brothers, period, do you know they bring in the biggest numbers on cable television when it comes to boxing? I'm talking about in the whole US. They bring in the highest numbers, and they're not even fighting a Canelo type of opponent. They're not fighting anyone close to main event status. And they're still doing numbers like this. They're still doing better numbers than every other fighter when it comes to cable boxing. So that is the definition of what you would consider a premium opponent. If they're doing numbers like that without Canelo, imagine if Charlo is fighting against Canelo Alvarez. It's gonna do ridiculous numbers. Canelo versus Andre is gonna do ridiculous numbers. You know why? Because race sells. This is the reason why Floyd Mayweather was so big. Because when Floyd Mayweather fought Oscar De La Hoya, with the type of pride that Mexican boxing fans have, up until that point, they had never seen a black fighter talking shit like that to a Mexican fighter, telling him how he's gonna beat his ass, been all up in his face, Muhammad Ali style, and then actually beat him after he talks all of that. So that put a permanent target on Floyd Mayweather's back from Mexican fans. So Floyd Mayweather, he took advantage of that by fighting a lot of Mexican fighters. And I'll tell you, because race plays a major role in the sport of boxing and the pride that Mexican fans have, they don't care if the fighter has a 5%, maybe a 50% chance, or only a 5% chance of beating Floyd Mayweather. They're gonna pay for that fight, because if that Mexican fighter gets lucky, they want to be there the minute it happens, the moment Floyd Mayweather loses. Because a lot of Mexican fans, they felt Floyd Mayweather had the nerve to talk shit to a Mexican fighter and beat him. Oh, they waiting for the moment that he loses, especially if it's a Mexican fighter that can beat him. And there's nothing wrong with fans thinking this. But my point is, all of this racial tension, it all worked for Floyd Mayweather's success. You guys remember when Floyd Mayweather fought Maidana, a fighter who's not Mexican, but Maidana, he surprisingly gave Floyd Mayweather one of his most difficult fights of his entire career. And it was funny because even though Floyd Mayweather beat him, he was going to move on. It was fans that started to say, oh, Floyd Mayweather, he's scared to give Maidana a rematch, right? Soon as Floyd Mayweather signed a contract, surprised everyone, and gave Maidana the rematch that fans were saying he wouldn't take, then they switched gears like they always do, and then they started to say, oh man, that's a cherry pick. Nobody wants to watch that fight. This is what they said. I still have the comments on my videos. This is why I always tell you, man, this is what I love about YouTube. Everything is documented. Everything I say is documented. These fans were saying nobody wants to watch that fight. Do you guys know the rematch, Mayweather versus Maidana, did better numbers than the first fight? There's a difference from what emotionally attached decafs say as opposed to what the reality is. And this is the same thing these fans will try to tell you when it comes to a Jamal Charlo fight or an Andre fight. Of course they're gonna say, these Canelo fans at least, they're the only ones that's gonna say it. Not a real boxing fan. They're gonna say, oh, that's not a premium fight. That fight is gonna do horrible numbers. Because deep down, they're afraid that Canelo may lose to these guys, right? This is why I always tell you, there's a difference between boxing fans and race fans. A boxing fan, he doesn't care if his guy is gonna win or lose. He still wants to see the best fights. A race fan has so much pride, he would rather his favorite fighter duck and be looked at as a joke or a cherry picker rather than him possibly losing to someone and challenging himself. So there is no doubt, opponents like Andre, Jamal Charlo, and David Benavidez, they would bring in Dazn the subscribers that they are desperately seeking for right now. When it comes to Jamal Charlo alone, more people are tuning in to watch Charlo fight in the States than they are tuning in to watch Canelo Alvarez fight. And overall, guys, Showtime is actually cheaper than DAZN is. At least when you look at how much DAZN is when you're paying for the whole year. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was cheaper or if it was more. It wouldn't matter if Jamal is fighting on Fox, which he does a lot, or if he's fighting on Showtime, which costs a little bit more than fighting on Fox. The bottom line is, no matter how Charlo got more people to tune in, guess what? More people are tuning in. That's all that matters. So there's no way that's not going to help Canelo Alvarez. Hands down, if you just do the math, if you go back and you look at any time that Kovalev fought in a main event, even when Kovalev was undefeated, Kovalev still wasn't doing the numbers on HBO that Jamal Charlo is doing today. So yeah, so if we're doing the math, we're doing the numbers, hands down, he is a premium type of fighter. But let's go even further. Let's say he doesn't bring in the most money. The bottom line is, if Canelo wants to be considered the best, you have undefeated champions in your division that have been calling you out for 5 years. Canelo still can't justify that. He still cannot justify not facing them. That's the great thing about the amateurs in the Olympics. When you're in the Olympics, you can have one fighter who's the most popular guy in that bracket, and you can have another guy in that bracket that no one has even heard of. But guess what? If that fighter is talented enough to make it to the gold medal match, you gotta fight him. That's all that matters. He worked all the way up the ladder, and you have to fight him. And that's exactly what Jamal Charlo did. Jamal, he worked all the way up the ladder to become Canelo Alvarez's mandatory. So Canelo had to fight him, premium or no premium. And once again, for you Canelo fans keep trying to say, oh, well, they offered him a fight, he didn't take it, that's not Canelo's fault. Once again, let me tell you this. Have you ever heard of a fighter, a champion, vacating his belt, giving it up to his mandatory, after his mandatory turned down the fight? Have you ever heard of that happening? Of course you haven't. Because it doesn't happen. The only way a champion will give up his belt is if he doesn't want to fight that guy. He's not going to give up his belt because the other guy is ducking him. That makes no damn sense. And the WBC president, he already admitted that it was Canelo Alvarez that requested to vacate the belt. He said that. It was Canelo that requested the vacate. The WBC didn't call up Canelo and say, hey, we were thinking about taking that belt back from you and giving it to Jamal Charlo. Are you okay with that, Canelo? Yeah, we decided, since Jamal Charlo doesn't want to fight you, maybe we should just go ahead and just hand him your belt. Does that make any damn sense? So we know what time it is. So moving on, back to this lawsuit. Listen, man, I'm telling you, man, after reading this file, this claim by Team Canelo, it's going to be really hard for, even if Canelo was lucky enough to win the lawsuit, if it goes that far, Canelo Alvarez is not going to get $280 million from Golden Boy. I truly believe he has no chance of winning the lawsuit against Dazn. That's just my own opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. But the fact that he has no contract with Dazn is going to be hard for him to win as a third-party beneficiary. Like I said, with Golden Boy, he has a chance to win. But how do we know Oscar De La Hoya is going to have $280 million just sitting around? He may be worth that, but we don't know where his assets are. I mean, that $280 million and all the other money Oscar De La Hoya has, especially if he knows that a lawsuit is brewing. What if he starts putting money in other people's name? What if he starts filing for bankruptcy? This is I don't know, man. I don't know. This might backfire on Canelo Alvarez filing this lawsuit, because if he pisses off Dazn and they force his ass to sit on the shelf, he can't go anywhere else and get a guaranteed $35 million a fight. And even if he were to get $35 million, you best believe they're going to make him fight lions. He's going to be fighting top of the line opponents, because I know damn well if I was a promoter, right, or if I had a network, ain't no way I'm going to be paying, $35 million for you to fight some damn Rocky Fieldings and Yildirim's. No, you're going to fight the undefeated guys that have an actual 50-50 chance of winning, because that's what fans want to see. They want to see you in a challenge. They want to see drama. They don't want to see something that's a guaranteed win. At least that's not what boxing fans want. That's what Canelo Alvarez fans want, which I explain is a complete difference. So this lawsuit, I think, puts Canelo Alvarez in a bad situation. I mean, it puts everyone in a bad situation. It's just a whole messy type of deal. I mean, all of this because Canelo Alvarez did not want to fight who DAZN wanted him to fight. I'm gonna tell you something else. You remember when I told you earlier on in this video, it got to the point to where DAZN, they got fed up. They allowed him to fight his Rocky Fieldings. They allowed him to fight Kovalev, etc., etc. But once they seen the return, once they seen the money wasn't coming in the way they expected it to, that's when they turned up the heat. Guys, imagine if Canelo would have did the right thing. Imagine if Canelo, he would have took the third Golovkin fight right away, and he would have beat him, dominated him with no controversy. And then follow that up with beating Andrade and Charlo, unifying all the belts in the middleweight division. Guys, I could guarantee you we would not be where we are today, where DAZN is fed up with Canelo Alvarez's level of opposition. Because those wins would have made Canelo Alvarez way bigger than he is today, if he could have did that. What you guys don't realize is when it comes to Floyd Mayweather, he had to beat beasts before he even became the A side. If you really know boxing, then you should know these names and how big and dangerous they were as opponents. Floyd Mayweather had to beat fighters like Gennaro Hernandez, Angel Manfredi, Diego Corrales, Jose Luis Castillo, Philip Endom. And this is way before Floyd Mayweather became a superstar. But like I said, I don't want to get too deep into that right now. That's for another video. But my point is, Canelo, he wants to be on that level of a Mayweather without putting in the work that Mayweather had to put in to get there. Canelo Alvarez finally got in a ring with Golovkin, where a lot of people believe he lost those fights. When he got in the ring with Lara, a lot of people believe he lost the Lara fight. He got in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, he lost that fight. You don't get that much credit for a win when it's attached to controversy, guys. When you're supposed to be the big thing in the sport of boxing, you're supposed to beat your signature opponents with no controversy. Now, it's different if, let's say, the first fight was involved with controversy. That means you're supposed to come back in the rematch and dominate that person with no controversy. But once again, all of Canelo Alvarez's biggest wins are involved with controversy. You know, it would be one thing if Canelo Alvarez, he started off his contract with DAZN fighting against soft touches, and then, you know, as he fought more, he started fighting tougher and tougher opponents to where he wasn't looking back. But Canelo Alvarez is still doing today what he started off doing with DAZN, always looking for the easiest opponent. Never did Canelo Alvarez even try to present a David Benavidez as an opponent. Never did he try to present a Jamal Charlo, a Demetrius Andrade as an opponent. And we can't say it's just because of this pandemic, you know, and oh, well, you know, they're trying to cut his pay, because way before the whole pandemic, Canelo Alvarez could have tried to impress DAZN by presenting this level of opposition as his next opponent. I'm gonna close out with saying this. Like I told you guys, it's gonna be an uphill battle for Canelo Alvarez to win this lawsuit. Even if he does win, I don't see him collecting this money that he's trying to win. Now, as far as you Canelo Alvarez fans go that love to fill up my comment section, you know, it's funny because every once in a while I respond to some of these guys that be sitting over here, you know, talking about, oh, you're hating, you're doing this, you're doing that. Soon as I respond to these cats, man, I'll respond to about 4 cats every once in a while, right? Most of the times they don't even respond. But then when they do respond and I ask them some logical questions like, what did I say you disagreed with? What did I say that you considered hating, or et cetera, right? Then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, well, now that you put it that way, I agree with you. I've been watching your channel forever, and actually I agree with what you're saying. I'm just a big Canelo fan and blah, blah, this. All of a sudden the truth comes out because they never expected to be confronted with the truth. It just made them feel good to say things that were therapeutic for them, right? This is why when I was doing my live radio show, these same type of fans would be all up in the live chat section, but they would never call in because they knew that if they got on the horn with me, they would be forced to say, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I already know. Yeah, because they already know deep down. They know deep down all this stuff that I'm saying, it logically makes sense. But they have to be loyal to Canelo at all costs, at least until they get confronted with the truth. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. You know, I always say on this channel, pay-per-view fights should actually be free. And now the day has come where I'm about to hook you up with an app where you can watch all your pay-per-view events, boxing, UFC, etc. for free. I want to introduce Block TV, the best internet streaming television app out there. They provide over 3,600 channels, including HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, and Stars. They have a massive video on demand library with over 40,000 of the new release movies and the latest TV series. And it also includes DVR. So you're getting all of this for $34.99 a month. And once again, that includes free pay-per-view. So this one right here is a no-brainer, guys, because back in Las Vegas, I was paying damn near $200 a month for my cable. Those days are long gone now. So to get the app, make sure you guys go over to getblocktv.com and put in my promo code and get 30% off your first month. You also get a free month for every friend you refer. The promo code is DBNation. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. Basically, you will end up with a haircut shape up or an edge up. What they do is they tattoo small dots that look like hair follicles in the areas where you have lost your hair and then blend it with your existing hair. You can even choose what type of hairline you want, hard shape up or soft and natural finish. And to maintain it, all you gotta do is shave your hair every few days, which is something you already were probably doing anyway. So if you wanna get this hookup for my brothers out there in the UK and Europe, make sure you check out the Scalp This on Instagram. And for my brothers out there in the States, make sure you go ahead and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. And when you go on their pages, you can see for yourself what these guys look like before. I mean, these guys are literally hair magicians. I've never seen anything like this before, but all I can tell you guys is this is a serious game changer for us men. So make sure you get in contact with Scalp This and Scalp Carolinas on Instagram.